Lauren Mitchell had perfected the art of being invisible. 2 months working in the Pellegrini mansion had taught her exactly how to move through rooms without drawing attention, how to fade into the background of conversations, how to exist in proximity to power without ever touching it. She kept her head down, her voice soft, and her sleeves long. Always long sleeves. Even now, in the suffocating Boston heat of late July, she wore a thin cotton blouse buttoned to her wrists while she chased a 5-year-old boy through the sprawling backyard. Matteo Pellegrini laughed as he zigzagged between the perfectly manicured hedges, his dark curls bouncing with each step. He looked so much like his father, the same sharp jawline beginning to form even at his young age, the same intense brown eyes that could shift from warm to calculating in a heartbeat. But where Nicholas Pellegrini radiated danger, his son was pure light. "You cannot catch me," Matteo called out in his adorable mix of English, and the words his late mother had taught him before she died 3 years ago. Lauren smiled despite the sweat trickling down her back. "I think you might be right. You're too fast for me." The boy stopped running and turned to face her, hands on his hips in an exaggerated display of victory. "I win. You win," Lauren agreed, walking toward him. "But winners still have to drink their juice before lunch." Matteo's expression shifted to one of comical betrayal. "That is not fair. Life rarely is, little man. Come on." They walked together toward the stone patio where Teresa, the housekeeper, had set out lunch. The older woman waved at them from the kitchen window, her weathered face creasing into a smile. Teresa was one of the few people in the house who treated Lauren like a human being rather than just another piece of furniture to be dusted around. Matteo climbed into his chair and reached for the glass of orange juice, his movements enthusiastic and uncoordinated in the way only a 5-year-old could manage. Lauren saw it happening before it actually did, her hand moving forward instinctively, but she was a second too slow. The glass tipped, sending a wave of cold juice directly onto her chest and lap. The liquid soaked through the thin fabric immediately, icy against her overheated skin. Matteo's eyes went wide with horror. "I am so sorry. I did not mean to. Please do not be angry." Lauren forced her voice to stay calm even as panic clawed at her throat. The wet fabric clung to her skin, transparent now, and she needed to change immediately. "It's okay, sweetheart. Accidents happen. I just need to go change quickly." "I am really sorry," he repeated, his voice small. "I know you are. It's really okay." She squeezed his shoulder gently before hurrying toward the service entrance that led to the staff quarters. The Pellegrini mansion was a study in controlled excess. Everything about it whispered old money and older power. Marble floors, crown molding, artwork that probably cost more than most people's houses. Lauren's room was in a separate wing, small but comfortable, with its own bathroom and a window that overlooked the side garden. She locked the door behind her and immediately began unbuttoning her blouse with shaking fingers. The wet fabric stuck to her skin, and she had to peel it away. She was halfway out of it, standing in just her plain white bra with her back to the door, when she heard it open. Lauren froze. Her heart stopped beating for what felt like an eternity. "Teresa, I need the contractor's file. You said it was in the staff office." Nicholas Pellegrini's voice was deep, authoritative, the kind of voice that expected immediate compliance. He stopped talking mid-sentence. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. Lauren could feel his eyes on her exposed skin, on the patchwork of scars that decorated her shoulder blade and upper arms. The burn scar on her left shoulder was the worst. A twisted landscape of melted skin where Tyler had held the iron down for what felt like forever. The cuts were thinner, more precise, a roadmap of rage and possession that had taken months to fade from angry red to pale silver. She grabbed for her blouse, trying to cover herself, but her movements were jerky and desperate. When she finally managed to turn around, clutching the wet fabric to her chest, Nicholas was still standing in the doorway. His expression was unreadable. Not disgust, not pity, just an intense focus that made her feel more exposed than her partial nudity. "I apologize," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "I thought this was the office. Teresa must have misunderstood." Lauren couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. Nicholas stepped back and closed the door with a quiet click that sounded deafening in the sudden silence. Lauren sank onto the edge of her bed, still holding the wet blouse, and tried to remember how to breathe. He had seen, after 2 months of being so careful, of wearing long sleeves in summer heat, of declining to swim with Matteo, of making sure no one ever got close enough to notice, Nicholas Pellegrini had seen everything. She changed into a fresh blouse with mechanical movements, her mind racing through options. She could pretend it never happened. She could quit. She could wait to be fired. Each option felt equally impossible. By the time she returned to the patio, Matteo had finished his lunch and was coloring at the outdoor table. He looked up with worried eyes. "Are you okay? I really did not mean to spill." "I know, baby, I'm fine. Just a little wet juice never hurt anyone." She ruffled his hair, trying to inject normalcy into her voice. The afternoon passed in a blur of activities. Lauren helped Matteo with his coloring, read him 3 stories, and played an elaborate game involving toy cars and imaginary traffic laws. Through it all, she felt the weight of Nicholas's gaze whenever he passed through a room, though he never spoke to her directly. Dinner was always early for Matteo. Lauren prepared his favorite meal with Teresa's help, mac and cheese with cut-up hot dogs shaped like octopi. Simple food that made the boy giggle. Nicholas joined them at the kitchen table, something he did occasionally when his schedule allowed. He was different tonight, more present, more focused. He asked Matteo about his day, listened to the breathless retelling of their race in the garden, smiled at the appropriate moments. But his eyes kept drifting to Lauren, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. After dinner, it was time for Matteo's bath and bedtime routine. Lauren ran the water, tested the temperature, and helped him scrub behind his ears, which he always tried to skip. She read him 2 more stories, tucked him in, and kissed his forehead. "Good night, little man. Good night, Lauren. I love you." The words always made her chest ache. "I love you too." She was closing his bedroom door when she saw Nicholas standing at the end of the hallway. He was watching her, his posture relaxed, but his expression anything but. He wore dark slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, the uniform of a man who had finished with business for the day but never truly stopped working. Lauren's pulse quickened. She walked toward him because there was no other exit, no way to avoid this moment. "Miss Mitchell," he said as she approached. "Mr. Pellegrini." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I want to apologize again for walking in on you earlier. That was inappropriate." "It's fine. You didn't know I was there." His eyes searched her face. "Still, it won't happen again." Lauren nodded, desperate to escape this conversation. "If that's all, I should head home." "Of course. Have a good evening." She walked past him, acutely aware of the space between their bodies, of the way he didn't move to give her more room. Her shoulder almost brushed his chest as she passed, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Lauren grabbed her bag from the staff room and left through the side entrance, the same way she always did. The summer air was still thick and hot, clinging to her skin as she walked to her car, a 15-year-old sedan that protested loudly before finally starting. She didn't see Nicholas watching from his office window, phone already in his hand. The call was answered on the first ring. "Boss? Ryan. I need you to do something for me." Nicholas's voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. "Name it. I need a complete background check on Lauren Mitchell. Everything. Where she came from, why she's here, who she was before she started working for me. I need it by tomorrow morning." There was a pause on the other end. "The nanny? Everything okay? Just do it. And Ryan, I want it comprehensive. Medical records if you can get them, previous addresses, employment history, everything. Consider it done." Nicholas ended the call and stood at the window for a long time, watching the empty driveway where Lauren's car had been. The scars he had seen told a story, one written in pain and survival. Burns didn't happen by accident in patterns like that. Cuts that precise didn't come from clumsiness. Someone had hurt her, deliberately, methodically, and Nicholas needed to know who. He returned to his desk and tried to focus on the papers spread across its surface. Supply chain documents, accounts that needed reviewing, a dispute between two of his captains that required mediation, the normal business of running an organization that officially didn't exist. But his mind kept returning to the image of Lauren's back, to the way she had frozen when she heard his voice, to the terror in her eyes when she turned around. Not fear of him specifically, but fear of being seen, of being exposed, of being vulnerable. He recognized that fear. He had seen it before in his wife's eyes during the last weeks before the accident that killed her. Fear of the life he led, of the danger that followed him, of what their son might become if he followed in his father's footsteps. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Teresa stood in the doorway, her expression troubled. "You need something?" he asked. "I wanted to talk to you about Lauren." Nicholas straightened. "What about her?" Teresa closed the door and moved further into the room. She had worked for the Pellegrini family for 30 years and was one of the few people who could speak freely to him. "I saw your face at dinner," she said. "Whatever happened earlier, whatever you saw, please don't fire her. That girl needs this job. I'm not firing her." "Good, because she's the best thing that's happened to Matteo since his mother died." He actually smiles now. He laughs. He talks about his day at dinner instead of sitting silent. Please don't take that away from him. Nicholas's expression softened slightly. "I told you I'm not firing her. I just need some information." Teresa studied him with knowing eyes. "Be careful, Nicholas. That girl has been hurt before. I can see it in the way she moves, the way she flinches at loud noises, the way she never quite relaxes. Whatever you're digging into, whatever you find, remember she's a person, not a problem to solve. I know that. Do you? Because sometimes I think you forget that not everyone in your life is a soldier or an enemy. Some people are just trying to survive." She left before he could respond, closing the door gently behind her. Nicholas leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Teresa was right, of course. She usually was. But that didn't change the fact that someone in his household, someone who spent hours alone with his son, had a past violent enough to leave scars that extensive. He needed answers, for Matteo's safety if nothing else. That's what he told himself anyway. It had nothing to do with the protective rage that had flooded through him when he saw those scars, or the way his hands had clenched into fists imagining someone hurting her, or the strange pull he felt toward this quiet woman who had somehow become essential to his son's happiness in just 2 months. Nothing to do with any of that. The night stretched on. Nicholas worked until the numbers on the page started blurring together, until even the strongest coffee couldn't keep him focused. Finally, around 2 a.m, he admitted defeat and headed upstairs. He paused outside Matteo's room, as he did every night, and carefully opened the door. His son slept peacefully, one arm thrown over his favorite stuffed bear, his breathing deep and even. Nicholas watched him for a moment, feeling the familiar ache in his chest. Matteo looked so much like his mother when he slept. The same peaceful expression, the same delicate features. "I'm keeping him safe," Nicholas whispered to the empty room, to the ghost of his wife, to himself. "I promise." He closed the door and continued to his own bedroom. But sleep didn't come easily. He kept seeing Lauren's scars, kept wondering what kind of monster would do that to someone, kept imagining scenarios that made his blood boil. His phone buzzed just after 6 a.m. A message from Ryan. "Got preliminary information. You're going to want to see this. Coming by at 8. Nicholas got up and showered, dressing in his usual work attire, dark slacks and a crisp white shirt. By the time he made it downstairs, Lauren had already arrived. He could hear her in the kitchen with Teresa, their voices soft, discussing the menu for Matteo's lunch. He stayed in his office, pretending to work, until Ryan arrived promptly at 8 with a manila folder. "That was fast," Nicholas said. "You said urgent. I pulled some strings." Ryan set the folder on the desk. "It's not everything yet, but it's a start. Medical records are harder to get, but I have a source working on it." Nicholas opened the folder and started reading. Lauren Mitchell, 27 years old, born in Portland, Oregon. Moved to Boston 18 months ago. Before that, she had lived in Philadelphia for 2 years. No criminal record, no outstanding warrants, no red flags on paper. But there was a note at the bottom of the first page that made Nicholas's jaw tighten. Subject filed restraining order in Philadelphia County Court 20 months ago. Order granted but complainant moved before hearing. Restraining order lapsed. Who was it against? Nicholas asked, though he already knew the answer would be important. Still digging on that. Court records are sealed, but I have someone working on it. Should have a name by end of day. Nicholas nodded slowly. A restraining order. Someone had hurt her badly enough that she went to the police, got legal protection, then ran anyway. Ran all the way across the country and built a new life in a city where no one knew her. Keep digging, he said. I want to know everything. And Ryan, be discreet. I don't want her knowing we're looking into this. Understood. After Ryan left, Nicholas sat with the folder open in front of him, staring at Lauren's information. 27 years old. So young, really. Young enough to still believe in fresh starts and new beginnings. Young enough to think that running far enough could make the past disappear. He knew better. The past never disappeared. It just waited, patient and hungry, for the right moment to catch up. Nicholas closed the folder and looked out the window toward the backyard where Lauren was already outside with Mateo, helping him water the flowers that lined the garden path. The boy's laughter drifted through the glass, bright and pure. Whatever had happened to Lauren Mitchell, whoever had hurt her, Nicholas was going to find out, and then he was going to make sure it never happened again. That much, he could promise. Ryan Cooper arrived at the Pellegrini mansion at 7:30 in the morning, earlier than Nicholas had expected. The investigator looked like he hadn't slept, his shirt wrinkled and his eyes shadowed, but his expression was sharp and focused. You look terrible, Nicholas said, gesturing for him to sit. You asked for comprehensive by morning. Comprehensive doesn't sleep. Ryan dropped a thick folder onto the desk. Everything you wanted is in there. Medical records, police reports, witness statements. It's not pretty. Nicholas opened the folder and began reading. The first document was a hospital intake form from Philadelphia General, dated 21 months ago. Patient, Lauren Michelle Mitchell. Age, 25. Admitted for treatment of second-degree burns to left shoulder and upper back. The attending physician's notes were clinical but damning. Burns consistent with contact with heated metal object. Patient claims accident with clothing iron. Injury pattern inconsistent with accidental contact. Social services consulted. Nicholas's jaw tightened as he flipped to the next page. Police report, filed 3 days after the hospital visit. Lauren had finally told the truth to a detective who specialized in domestic violence cases. The man's name was Tyler Grant, her boyfriend of 14 months. The burns were punishment for talking to a male cashier at the grocery store. There's more, Ryan said quietly. Keep reading. The restraining order application was next. Lauren's handwriting was shaky, but determined as she described a pattern of escalating violence over 8 months. Verbal abuse that turned to pushing, then slapping, then worse. Tyler isolated her from friends, monitored her phone, controlled her money. The burns were the breaking point, the moment she finally understood he might actually kill her. The restraining order was granted. Tyler Grant was served at his apartment. According to the follow-up notes, he didn't contest it, didn't even show up to the hearing. 2 weeks later, Lauren packed everything she owned into her car and drove away from Philadelphia, leaving no forwarding address. Where did she go first? Nicholas asked. Hartford, Connecticut. Worked as a waitress for 6 months under the table, probably trying to stay off the grid. Then she moved to Boston, got legitimate employment through a staffing agency. That's how she ended up with your family. Nicholas studied the photograph paperclip to Tyler Grant's information sheet. White male, early 30s, brown hair, average height and build, the kind of man who could disappear into any crowd, unremarkable in every way, except for the coldness in his pale blue eyes. Current location? Atlantic City. He works security at the Sapphire Pearl Casino, which is owned by a shell company that traces back to the Volkov family. Nicholas looked up sharply. The Russians? Yeah. Could be coincidence. Guy needed a job, they were hiring. But the timing is interesting. He got hired there about 4 months ago, right around when your organization had that shipping dispute with Volkov's people. You think they know she works for me? Ryan shrugged. I think we should assume they might. The Volkovs are thorough. If they're looking for leverage against you, They'd investigate everyone in your household. Your son's nanny would be on that list. Nicholas closed the folder and leaned back in his chair, his mind already working through scenarios and contingencies. If the Russians knew about Lauren, if they knew about her connection to Tyler Grant, they could use that relationship as a weapon. Bring Tyler back into her life, traumatize her, destabilize Nicholas's household, create chaos. I want surveillance on him, Nicholas said. 24 hours, rotating teams. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to, every phone call he makes. Done. What about her? Does she know you're looking into this? Not yet, but she's about to. Ryan stood. Be careful how you handle this, boss. She's not one of your soldiers. You can't just order her to accept your protection. Watch me. After Ryan left, Nicholas sat with the folder open, staring at the hospital photograph of Lauren's burns. The image was clinical, taken for medical documentation, but it showed the full extent of the damage. The skin on her shoulder was mottled and twisted, the kind of scar that would never fully fade. Rage burned through him, cold and controlled. He had built his entire life on power and control, on making sure the people under his protection stayed safe. The fact that Lauren had been hurt like this, that she had suffered while he existed in the same world, felt like a personal failure, even though he hadn't known her then. He picked up his phone and made a call to his head of security. Marcus, I want the perimeter system upgraded. More cameras, motion sensors, the works. And I want 2 additional guards on rotation, specifically focused on monitoring anyone approaching the property who doesn't have clearance. Something happen? Just do it. I want it operational by end of week. The next call was more delicate. Nicholas dialed a number he rarely used, one that connected him to a contact in Atlantic City who owed him several favors. I need someone watched, Nicholas said when the man answered. Tyler Grant, works security at the Sapphire Pearl. I want to know his schedule, his habits, his connections, and I need to know if anyone from the Volkov organization is paying special attention to him. This related to the casino situation? Different matter. Personal. The man on the other end understood immediately that no further questions would be welcome. I'll have someone on him by tonight. Nicholas ended the call and checked his watch. 9:15. Mateo would be at his swimming lesson until 10:30, which meant Lauren would be alone in the house, except for Teresa. This was as private as the conversation was going to get. He found her in the kitchen, preparing ingredients for Mateo's lunch. She wore another long-sleeved shirt despite the heat, pale blue this time, with the sleeves buttoned at her wrists. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she hummed softly while she worked, some melody he didn't recognize. Miss Mitchell, I need to speak with you privately. Lauren jumped, nearly dropping the knife she was using to slice vegetables. She turned, her blue eyes wide. Mr. Pellegrini, I didn't hear you come in. My office, please. Her face paled slightly, but she nodded and followed him through the house. Nicholas could feel her tension radiating like heat as they walked, the way her steps slowed as they approached his office door. He gestured for her to sit in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. She perched on the edge, her posture rigid, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Nicholas didn't sit. Instead, he placed the folder on the desk between them and watched her reaction. Her eyes dropped to it, and he saw the moment she recognized what it might contain. The color drained from her face completely. I had you investigated, he said, his voice matter-of-fact. After what I saw yesterday, I needed to know what happened to you. Lauren's breathing became shallow. You had no right. I have every right. You work in my home. You spend time alone with my son. I need to know who you are. I'm exactly who I said I was. I gave you references, background checks, everything you asked for when you hired me. You gave me a sanitized version. You didn't mention Tyler Grant. The name hit her like a physical blow. She flinched, her hands gripping each other so tightly her knuckles went white. How did you... Hospital records, police reports, restraining order application. It's all in here. He tapped the folder. 2nd-degree burns, multiple incidents of physical assault, 8 months of systematic abuse before you finally got out. Lauren stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You had no right to dig into that. That part of my life is over. I left it behind. Did you? Because Tyler Grant is currently employed by an organization that has active conflicts with my family. That's not a coincidence I can ignore. She stared at him, confusion mixing with the fear in her eyes. What are you talking about? Tyler works at some casino. He doesn't have anything to do with your business. The casino is owned by the Russian mob. The same people who have been trying to move into my territory for the past year. The same people who killed my wife. The words hung in the air between them. Lauren sank back into the chair, her legs apparently unable to hold her weight anymore. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear, I didn't know about any of that. I just needed a job, and your agency sent me here. And I thought I'd finally found somewhere safe. Nicholas studied her face, looking for any sign of deception. He had spent years reading people, learning to spot lies and manipulation. Lauren showed neither. She was terrified. Yes, but it was the terror of a victim facing her past, not the calculated fear of someone caught in a scheme. I believe you, he said finally, but that doesn't change our situation. If the Russians know you work for me, if they know about your connection to Tyler, they could use that against both of us. Then I'll leave. I'll quit. Move to another city. Start over again. I've done it before. No. The word came out harder than he intended. Lauren looked up at him, startled. No, he repeated softer this time. You're not running again. You're under my protection now. I don't need protection. I need to disappear before Tyler finds me, before your enemies use me to hurt you and Mateo. Nicholas moved around the desk and crouched in front of her chair, bringing himself to her eye level. Listen to me carefully, Lauren. The moment you started working in this house, you became part of my world whether you knew it or not. People watch everyone associated with me. They look for weaknesses, for leverage, for ways to hurt what I care about. Running won't change that. It will just leave you vulnerable. And staying makes me what? A prisoner in your house? It makes you someone I can keep safe. I'm doubling security on the property. You'll have protection when you leave. We'll monitor Tyler's movements, make sure he doesn't come anywhere near Boston. Lauren's eyes filled with tears, though she blinked them back furiously. Why? Why would you do this for me? I'm just your employee. You barely know me. The question was valid, and Nicholas didn't have an answer that made sense even to himself. The logical response was that protecting her protected Mateo, that allowing a threat to exist anywhere in his household was unacceptable. But the truth was more complicated, tied up in the way his chest had ached when he saw her scars, the protective fury that had consumed him reading about what she'd endured. You're not just an employee, he said carefully. You've become important to my son. He trusts you, cares about you. That makes you family, in the ways that matter. Family, she repeated, testing the word like it might burn her tongue. My wife died 3 years ago. Car accident on her way home from visiting her sister. Except it wasn't an accident. The brakes were cut, the steering column tampered with. It was a message from a rival family, a punishment for a decision I made that cost them money. Lauren's expression shifted from fear to sympathy. I'm so sorry. I tell you this so you understand why I'm obsessive about security, why I need to know about every potential threat. I couldn't protect her. I won't fail again. Silence settled between them, heavy with shared pain. Lauren wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand, a gesture so vulnerable it made Nicholas's heart clench. I had therapy, she said suddenly, after I left Philadelphia. 6 months of intensive sessions with a trauma specialist. She taught me coping mechanisms, ways to recognize danger signs, how to not let fear control my entire life. I thought I was doing well. I thought I'd moved past it. You have moved past it. You're here. You're working. You're living your life. That took incredible strength. Then why do I feel like I'm right back where I started? Afraid, powerless, waiting for everything to fall apart? Because trauma doesn't disappear just because we want it to. But this time you're not alone. This time you have resources, protection, people who won't let him hurt you again. Lauren met his eyes, searching for something. Trust, maybe, or certainty in an uncertain world. What if I can't do this? What if having me here puts Mateo in danger? Then I'll handle it. That's what I do, Lauren. I handle threats. I eliminate problems. You focus on taking care of my son and letting yourself heal. Let me worry about everything else. The office door burst open, making them both jump. Mateo ran in, his hair still damp from swimming, his face bright with excitement. Dad! Lauren! I swam the whole length without my floaties. Coach said I am getting so strong. Nicholas stood quickly, putting distance between himself and Lauren. That's excellent news, little man. I'm very proud of you. Mateo noticed Lauren's face, and his expression shifted to concern. Why are you sad? Did I do something wrong? No, baby, of course not. Lauren forced a smile, though her eyes were still red. I'm just very proud of you, too. Swimming a whole length is a big deal. Then why do you look like you have been crying? Adult stuff. Nicholas intervened smoothly. Nothing for you to worry about. Why don't you go get changed? And then you can tell Lauren all about your swimming lesson while you eat lunch. Mateo hesitated, looking between them with the uncanny perception children sometimes have. But the promise of lunch and an audience for his accomplishments won out. Okay, but Lauren, you have to promise to watch me swim next time so you can see how good I am. I promise. After Mateo left, Lauren stood. I should go help Teresa with lunch. Wait. Nicholas moved to his desk and picked up his phone. I need to make 2 calls. I want you to hear them. The first call was to Marcus, his security chief. I want the new protocols active immediately. I don't care what it costs or how long the contractors have to work. Get it done. He ended the call and immediately dialed another number. Ryan, about Tyler Grant. I want him under surveillance starting tonight. Full coverage, multiple teams. I want to know if he so much as thinks about leaving Atlantic City. Ryan's voice came through the speaker, questioning. Do you want us to eliminate the problem? It would be cleaner. Nicholas glanced at Lauren, who was watching him with wide eyes. No, not yet. I want to understand his connections first. If he's working with the Volkovs, killing him might trigger a larger response. We monitor, we gather information, and we stay ahead of any move he might make. Understood. What if he does try to leave Atlantic City? Then you follow him. And if he comes within 50 miles of Boston, you notify me immediately. Clear? Crystal. Nicholas ended the call and turned back to Lauren. Tyler Grant is being watched. He won't get near you without me knowing about it. Lauren hugged herself, her arms wrapped tightly around her middle. This is insane. This whole situation is insane. Welcome to my world. It's not pretty, but it's thorough. I don't know if I can live like this. Always looking over my shoulder, always waiting for something terrible to happen. You're already living like that, Nicholas said gently. You've been living like that since the day you ran from Philadelphia. At least now you have someone watching your back. She studied him for a long moment, and he could see the war playing out behind her eyes. The desire to trust battling against years of learned caution. The need for safety, fighting with the fear of owing someone too much. Okay, she said finally. Okay, but I have conditions. Name them. I don't want Mateo to know about any of this. He's 5 years old. He doesn't need to be scared or confused about why there are suddenly more security cameras everywhere. Agreed. He'll think we're just upgrading the system. And I want to know what's happening. If Tyler moves, if something changes, I want to be informed. No keeping me in the dark for my own good. Nicholas hesitated. His instinct was to protect her from harsh realities, to handle threats without burdening her with details. But the look in her eyes told him she needed this. Needed some measure of control in a situation where she had very little. You'll be kept informed, he promised, within reason. Some things you're better off not knowing, but major developments, changes to your safety protocol, anything directly relevant to you, I'll tell you. Thank you. They stood in the office, the folder still sitting on the desk between them. A physical representation of all the pain she'd survived and the danger that still lurked in her past. Nicholas wanted to promise her that everything would be okay, that he'd keep her absolutely safe, that Tyler Grant would never touch her again. But he'd learned years ago that some promises were too big to make. The world was unpredictable, and violence had a way of finding cracks in even the best defenses. All he could do was be prepared, be vigilant, and be absolutely ruthless with anyone who threatened what was his. And somehow, in the past 24 hours, Lauren Mitchell had become his to protect. 5 days of uneasy peace had passed since Nicholas confronted Lauren about her past. The mansion had transformed subtly, but noticeably. New cameras appeared on the exterior walls, sleek and modern. 2 additional security guards joined the rotation. Their presence explained away to Mateo as summer helpers for the grounds. Lauren adjusted to the changes with quiet acceptance, though she sometimes caught herself counting the cameras when she thought no one was watching. Tuesday morning started normally. Lauren arrived at 7:30 as usual, let herself in through the side entrance, and found Teresa already preparing breakfast. The housekeeper greeted her with a warm smile and a cup of coffee, just the way Lauren liked it. "Mateo is still sleeping," Teresa said. "Mr. Pellegrini left early for a meeting downtown. Said he would be back by lunch." Lauren nodded and took the coffee gratefully. She had started sleeping better the past few nights. The constant low-level anxiety that had defined her existence for nearly 2 years, finally beginning to ease. Knowing that Tyler was being watched, that people were actively monitoring his movements, created a strange sense of security she hadn't felt in a long time. She was halfway through her coffee when Marcus, the head of security, appeared in the kitchen doorway. His expression was carefully neutral, but Lauren had learned to read the tension in his shoulders. "Miss Mitchell, I need to speak with you. It's important." Teresa's eyes darted between them. "I will go wake Mateo." Once they were alone, Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Lauren a message. "Our surveillance team in Atlantic City reported this an hour ago. Tyler Grant requested time off from his job, citing a family emergency. He left his apartment at 4 this morning. We lost track of him somewhere outside Philadelphia." The coffee turned to acid in Lauren's stomach. Lost track? How do you lose track of someone? He knows surveillance techniques. Switched cars, took back roads, disabled his phone. Professional level evasion. Marcus's jaw tightened. "I've already notified Mr. Pellegrini. He's on his way back now." Lauren set down her mug before her shaking hands could drop it. "He's coming here. Tyler's coming to Boston. We don't know that for certain." "I know it. He found me somehow. He knows where I am." Marcus didn't argue, which was worse than if he had tried to reassure her with empty platitudes. "The property is secure. We have additional personnel arriving within the hour. You're safe here." Safe. The word felt like a lie. Lauren had thought she was safe in Philadelphia, too. Right up until the moment Tyler's hand closed around her throat, the iron heating on the counter behind him. His voice soft and reasonable as he explained why she deserved to be punished. She excused herself and went to the bathroom, locking the door behind her. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman on the edge of panic, blue eyes too wide, face too pale. She splashed cold water on her face and forced herself to breathe deeply, using the techniques her therapist had taught her. In through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Out through the mouth for 8. The pattern calmed her racing heart enough that she could think clearly. She had 2 choices: run again, disappear into another city with another identity, or trust that Nicholas's protection was real and substantial. Running felt familiar, comfortable in its own terrible way, but it also felt like giving up, like admitting that Tyler would control her life forever, chasing her from place to place until she had nowhere left to hide. A knock on the bathroom door startled her. "Lauren?" Mateo's voice was sleep-rough and concerned. "Are you okay in there?" She unlocked the door and found the boy in his pajamas, his dark hair sticking up in several directions. His expression worried. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just needed a minute." Teresa said something is happening. "Are we in danger?" The question was too perceptive for a 5-year-old, but Mateo had grown up in a world where danger was always a possibility, where his father's business meant constant vigilance. Lauren crouched down to his level. "Everything is okay. Your dad is being extra careful about security, that's all. Because of bad people who don't like him? Something like that." Mateo hugged her suddenly, his small arms tight around her neck. "I don't want the bad people to hurt you." Lauren's throat closed with emotion. "They won't, baby. I promise." Nicholas arrived 20 minutes later, his face set in hard lines. He went directly to his office with Marcus. and Lauren could hear the low murmur of urgent conversation through the closed door. She kept Mateo occupied with breakfast and coloring, trying to project a calm she absolutely did not feel. At 9:30, a delivery van pulled up to the front gate. Through the window, Lauren watched Marcus go out to meet it. He spoke briefly with the driver, then accepted a large bouquet of flowers. Her blood turned to ice. Marcus brought the flowers to the door, but didn't let them inside. Instead, he called for Nicholas, who emerged from his office with an expression that could cut glass. "Who are these for?" Nicholas asked. "Lauren Mitchell," Marcus replied. No return address on the card. Nicholas took the small envelope attached to the bouquet and opened it. Whatever he read, there made his entire body go rigid. He looked up, his dark eyes finding Lauren where she stood frozen in the kitchen doorway. "Get Mateo upstairs, now." The command in his voice snapped her into motion. She took Mateo's hand and led him quickly to his bedroom, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. "Why is Dad angry?" Mateo asked. "He's not angry, just busy with work stuff. Why don't you play with your cars for a bit?" She left him building an elaborate racetrack and hurried back downstairs. Nicholas was in his office, the bouquet sitting on his desk like a bomb. The flowers were roses, red and expensive, exactly the kind Tyler used to bring after he hurt her. As if beauty could erase violence. "What did the card say?" Lauren asked from the doorway. Nicholas looked at her for a long moment before handing it over. The handwriting was achingly familiar, Tyler's neat block letters spelling out 2 words and a nickname that made her skin crawl. "Miss you, Princess. Princess." He always called her that, said she was his perfect princess who needed to be kept safe from the world, which really meant kept isolated and controlled and broken down until she believed she deserved the pain. "He's here," Lauren whispered. "He's in Boston. We're checking the security footage now." He or someone working for him got close enough to make this delivery. Nicholas stood and moved around the desk. "Lauren, I need to make a decision, and I need you to trust me." "What kind of decision?" "I have a property in Cape Cod, a beach house that's extremely secure and off the grid. Most people don't know I own it. I want to move you and Mateo there today, right now, while my team locates Tyler." Lauren's first instinct was to argue, to insist that running solved nothing. But looking at Nicholas's face, at the cold determination there, she understood this wasn't running. This was tactical retreat, moving valuable pieces off the board while the real game played out. For how long? However long it takes. Days, maybe a week. Until we know exactly where Tyler is and what his intentions are. And if his intentions are to find me, moving to Cape Cod just delays the inevitable. Nothing is inevitable except what I allow to happen. Nicholas's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. "I have resources Tyler Grant can't begin to imagine. The only reason he's still breathing is because I don't yet know if killing him will trigger a larger response from the Volkovs. But that calculation can change very quickly." The casual mention of killing should have horrified her. Instead, Lauren felt a dark satisfaction curl in her chest. Tyler had terrorized her for months, had burned and beaten and broken her while she had no one to defend her. No power to fight back. The idea that someone might actually make him pay for that felt like justice, even if it came from a morally questionable source. "Okay," she said. "How soon do we leave?" 30 minutes. Pack light. We have everything you'll need at the house. And Lauren, this stays between us. Mateo doesn't need to know why we're really going." They left exactly 32 minutes later in an SUV with tinted windows, Marcus driving and another guard in the passenger seat. Lauren sat in the back with Mateo, who peppered her with excited questions about the beach house. "Can we swim in the ocean? Maybe, if it's warm enough. Will there be crabs? I want to catch crabs." "I don't know, baby. We'll see what we find." Nicholas followed in a separate car with 2 more guards. The convoy moved through Boston traffic with practiced efficiency, taking a route that changed twice based on instructions Nicholas received via phone. They reached Cape Cod in just under 2 hours. The beach house sat at the end of a private road, surrounded by tall hedges and natural dunes. It was smaller than the Boston mansion, but no less impressive. All weathered wood and floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean. Mateo was enchanted immediately. "Can I go to the beach? Please? I want to see the water." Lauren looked to Nicholas, who had just finished a tense phone call. He nodded. "Stay where we can see you from the deck. Don't go in the water without an adult." The boy ran off, and Lauren followed at a slower pace, suddenly exhausted despite the early hour. The ocean stretched endlessly before them, gray-blue under a cloudy sky. Mateo searched for shells along the waterline, his laughter carrying on the salt-scented breeze. Nicholas stood beside her on the deck, his phone still in his hand. "My team picked up Tyler on security camera footage from this morning. He was 3 blocks from the mansion, sitting in a parked car, watching the gate." Lauren's breath caught. 3 blocks. That close. The license plate traces to a rental company. He's using a fake ID, paying cash. Professional-grade false documentation, which suggests he had help acquiring it. "The Russians," Lauren said quietly. "Possibly. Or he's just more connected than we thought." Nicholas turned to face her. "Either way, he's in Boston. He knows where you were, and he's actively trying to locate you. Moving here was the right call." Lauren wrapped her arms around herself, watching Mateo play. "How did this become my life? 6 months ago, my biggest worry was whether I'd saved money for rent. Now I'm hiding from my abusive ex-boyfriend, while a Mafia boss protects me from Russian mobsters. Life has a way of getting complicated." That's an understatement. They stood in silence for a while, the sound of waves filling the space between words. Finally, Nicholas spoke again. "I need to go back to Boston tonight. There are things I need to handle personally." Panic flared in Lauren's chest. "You're leaving us here alone? Marcus and 3 other guards will stay with you. The house has a security system that would make a bank jealous. You'll be safer here than anywhere else I can think of." "That's not reassuring. It's the truth." "Lauren, I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing." She wanted to argue, to demand he stay, to tell him that she felt safe only when he was close. But those feelings were dangerous, the kind that led to dependence and complications she couldn't afford. "Fine. But you call me if anything changes." "I will." Nicholas left after dinner, which Lauren and Mateo ate on the deck while the sun set over the water. The boy fell asleep early, exhausted from playing on the beach. Lauren carried him to the bedroom Nicholas had indicated, tucked him in, and stood watching him sleep for a long moment. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. The idea that her presence in his life might endanger him made her stomach twist with guilt. Maybe she should leave after all. Disappear in the middle of the night before Tyler's hunt for her brought violence to Nicholas's door. She was still wrestling with that thought when she heard a car pull up outside. Marcus went to check, then returned with Nicholas, who looked tired and tense. "I thought you went back to Boston," Lauren said. "I did. Meeting finished early. Thought I'd stay here tonight instead of driving back in the dark." It was a lie. Lauren could see it in the way he didn't quite meet her eyes. He had come back because he was worried, because leaving them felt wrong despite the security measures. The realization warmed something in her chest that had been cold for a very long time. "Thank you," she said quietly. Nicholas nodded and disappeared into what must have been his bedroom. Lauren tried to settle on the couch with a book, but her mind wouldn't focus. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow through the windows looked like Tyler's silhouette. Around midnight, exhaustion finally started to win over anxiety. Her eyes grew heavy, the book slipping from her hands. She drifted into uneasy sleep, and immediately the nightmares began. Tyler's face, close to hers, his breath hot and sour. The iron in his hand, glowing red. Her own voice screaming, begging, promising anything if he would just stop. The smell of her skin burning. The sound like meat on a grill. His voice, soft and loving. "You made me do this, princess. You know I hate hurting you." Lauren woke up screaming, her body jerking upright on the couch. Strong hands gripped her shoulders, and she fought instinctively. Panic overwhelming reason. "Lauren, stop. You're safe. It's me." Nicholas's voice cut through the terror. She stopped struggling and focused on his face, on the concern in his dark eyes. He was kneeling in front of the couch, still wearing the dress pants and white shirt from earlier, now rumpled from sleep. "Sorry," she gasped. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. Don't apologize. Are you okay?" She wasn't, not even close. But Lauren nodded anyway. "Just a nightmare. Nicholas sat on the coffee table facing her, close but not crowding. You were screaming his name. Tyler's name. I dream about that night sometimes. The night with the iron. I can still smell it, still feel it. The dreams make it so vivid, like it's happening all over again. Tell me what happened. All of it. Lauren pulled her knees to her chest, making herself smaller. We'd been together 14 months. He seemed perfect at first, attentive and protective. Then slowly things changed. He didn't like my friends. Didn't want me going out without him. Got angry when other men talked to me. I told myself it was just because he loved me so much. Classic pattern, Nicholas said quietly. The first time he hit me, he cried and apologized for days. Bought me flowers, promised it would never happen again. I believed him. The second time, the apologies were shorter. By the fifth or sixth time, he stopped apologizing at all. Said I provoked him. That if I just behaved better, he wouldn't have to get angry. Nicholas's hands clenched into fists, but his voice remained calm. What happened the night of the burns? I went to the grocery store alone. He was at work, and we needed milk. The cashier was friendly, made small talk while he scanned my items. Asked how my day was. Normal stuff. Tyler was waiting when I got home. He'd put cameras in the apartment without telling me. Had been watching me through his phone. He saw me smile at the cashier. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. He heated the iron while he explained how disappointed he was. Said he'd given me everything, protected me from the world, and I repaid him by flirting with strangers. I tried to tell him I wasn't flirting, that it was just basic politeness. He said I was lying. Nicholas moved to sit beside her on the couch, close enough that she could feel his warmth. You don't have to finish if you don't want to. I need to. I need you to understand what he is. Lauren took a shaky breath. He held me down and pressed the iron to my shoulder. Counted to 10 while I screamed. Then he turned it off, kissed my forehead, and told me he loved me. Said everything could go back to normal if I just learned to behave. But you didn't go back to normal. I went to the hospital the next day while he was at work. Told them it was an accident at first. But the doctor didn't believe me. She kept asking gentle questions until I broke down and told the truth. She called the police, called social services. They helped me file the restraining order, gave me resources for shelters and therapy. Tyler never contested it, never fought back legally. I thought that meant he'd moved on, that he was letting me go. He was just biding his time, Nicholas said. Men like that don't let go. They wait and plan and find their moment. Lauren turned to look at him. Really look at him. How do you know so much about this? My mother.